Daunte Wright. So Daunte Wright got pulled over, if I'm not mistaken, for having too many air fresheners, which is a legit reason. It's a legit reason to get pulled over by the cops, right?
Very.
And then,
Car
shit
smells
happens.
too good.
Yeah. And then whatever happens. They say he resists arrest, but I feel like the way they do that shit to people, it's like a natural reaction, like a reflex to act that way when someone's doing that shit to you.
Yeah.
And then the fucking lady cop, whatever her name is, shoots him.
Kim, I believe it's Kim Potter.
Kim Potter shoots him with a gun, and then later her excuse is, I thought I had my taser in my hand, which was immediately bullshit with all these fucking things of how the taser is bright yellow, only weighs 8 ounces.
Yeah.
The Glock is very
Heavier.
black. And yeah, it's about like 2 pounds, like 2.5 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, really? You really thought this bullshit excuse was gonna fly? And then she had to quit right after. And now she's being charged with manslaughter.
Yeah, second degree manslaughter.
Second degree. Which, again, yeah, it's just all bullshit. And first of all, I don't know why she quit. I don't know how she thought that was a good idea, because now she doesn't have like the department behind her.
I'm pretty sure she was probably advised to.
Right, but who cares, right? Who cares about her? It's just, with all that shit happening, so let's say all this shit started with George Floyd, even though we know it didn't.
Right.
From then till now, has anything changed?
Nope. All right, guys.
Cool,
so,
oh man, the only thing that I've seen that's sort of changed is that she's being charged with manslaughter. Like before, she wouldn't have been charged; it would have been swept on the run super fast.
Yeah, or it would have been an investigation.
Yeah, like just indefinite investigation to where nothing happens. And then that other video of the Army veteran, or the I don't know if they're veterans, if it's on the Army, but
yeah, he was a veteran, but I think he was he's still active, so he's still actively served. Yeah.
Right. So he was pulled over for some reason, or he was just at a gas station. They asked him to get out, or like they weren't asking him, they were like commanding him. He had his hands out, saying like, why, like, basically all, like, every right he had, because he knew, like, he didn't have to, all that shit. There was a point where he said, the Army dude, he said, I'm scared, and the cop just straight out said, you should be. So again, where is the defense in that? How can people defend that at all? Do you know? Can you like reach really far and defend that?
They're black.
Okay, fair enough.
I
get it. The stereotypes, the boxes, we got to go with them, because can't critical think. But it was just like the whole hands out thing. He played it the smartest way he could, because they were asking him to open the door and shit like that, and
hands
he was just like,
out
nope.
the window.
Yep. Even if they ask you to open the door, nope, never fucking hands out of sight of them, because as soon as if he reached for that door, they would have shot him right away. Yeah. The one thing I found funny about that video was that cop's partner looked very hesitant, didn't know what to do. It looked like he was trying to do the right thing, or at least like kind of wanted to de-escalate it to not be so like crazy. Because at one point, when he already got pepper sprayed, so he was already disoriented, all that shit, they opened the door. He was stuck by his seatbelt, so he couldn't get out. That one partner of his reached in to try to unbuckle a seatbelt. His partner immediately like, don't reach in there. It's just like, what the fuck? And like, I was just like, he was just like, I don't know what to do. And I was just like, oh, you must be like young on the force. You must not have been like gone through the real training of like, no, like you've like, okay, this is with every job, right? You go through like school or whatever, and this is how they teach you how the job should work. And then as soon as you get the job, it's like, yeah, all that shit you learned is a good base, but this is how it really works when you're actually here. So it feels like he hadn't gone through the real training of like, no, when we're cops, this is how we really do things, and this is how we protect ourselves and protect each other, and basically be the gang that we are.
Right.
So there's that shit, and then the only reason that cop that did all that shit got fired is because the video went viral.
Yep.
Because that shit happened in December, I think, of last year. So I feel like, yeah, nothing has changed really, but the only thing that's changed is now it's somewhat consequences, somewhat like if your video happens to go viral, hope like there's a 0.5% more chance that the cop gets in trouble.
Right.
Which is, I guess it's something, better than nothing, I guess, but it's still just bullshit, man. It's still just all bullshit.
It's funny you brought up the other video with the cop or his partner who didn't know, like you could tell he didn't know what was going on or what to do. Kimberly Potter, she was training a new officer that day that she shot Daunte Wright. So she was in charge of training new officers what to do. And looking at the facts we have of this case and of other things surrounding the case, so the way for everyone out there is always like, how come the cops never use their taser? How come they never use their taser? Which is always a great question, because a lot of these situations can be de-escalated by just using the damn taser, right? So I've learned from this situation that the way the gun and the taser are set up is the gun is always on the side of your dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, the gun's on your right hip. If you're left-handed, it goes on your left hip. And then the opposite side, so your weaker hand, is the taser. So her being a officer who trained other officers, she knows this like the back of her head. So I don't understand that situation, how she thought it was her taser.
That makes it even worse that she used the excuse that she thought it was a taser. That makes it so much worse.
If you see on the video, she says like taser, 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 and then grabs the gun, shoots him, and then is like, oh shit, and everything like that. And there's a part of me, again, jaded, that feels like, man, are you just saying that to try to cover your ass? Because you were already gonna do what you were gonna do.
Yeah, they train to use these words so that then when it's reviewed, they're all protected. All that shit, like lawyers go over the same story over and over again, so right. It. And what was I gonna say? Okay, yeah. So in these situations, right, the go-to defense for cops a lot is like, oh, they're under like so much stress, and if it was you would probably get it confused for your gun and taser, blah blah blah. They have training, right? Didn't we just spend like a shitload more money on training cops right. and crap like that,
Right.
And then also the thing that they want to forget, these people that defend cops this way, the whole like they're in a stressful situation. It is their job to know this shit. They signed up for this shit, right? Civilians don't go through any training. They don't go through any training of like, this is what you do when a gun gets pointed at you.
Right.
You have to do this and you have to act calm and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, man, like when a gun's pointed at you, you're allowed to be stressed and like, what the fuck is going on? And you can't, like, you're a deer in the headlights. Like when you're listening to commands or whatever, I'm pretty sure most of the people can't really hear it. They're just like, gun, 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 gun in my face. And like, what do I got to do? I got to cross my fingers and then cross my legs and then fucking say the alphabet backwards. What?
Right.
You want me to do all this shit when I'm fucking fearing for my life? Maybe the first time ever a gun's been pointed in my face.
Right.
So they want to ignore all that shit, and it's just bullshit after bullshit, man. All the time, and I hate that. That shit.
Reading the Daunte Wright story, crazy part was he called his mom as he got pulled over, and last year I got pulled over, and that was the first thing I did. And my mom was on my Bluetooth, and I just told her, I was just like, I'm getting pulled over. I don't know why, but just stay on the phone. And then she was like, okay, whatever. Interaction occurred and whatever. That was a good interaction, so it was what it was. But I'm like, for me, to have the thought, all right, let me call somebody, put them on the phone, just in case or whatever, because I don't know, I don't even know why I'm getting pulled over right now, right? And this kid, so like, they can't say, oh, which they will eventually, because he's 20, They're gonna look into his Instagram and see him smoking weed and say he was a drug addict or he sold whatever. But before we get to that point, this kid did everything right. He called, because a couple years ago during the Michael Brown incident and the Trayvon Martin incident, they were telling black youth and black people, hey, we need to start calling people when we get pulled over and like have them on speaker and speak loudly and let them know what's going on, and it'll deter these cops from doing XYZ. And me sitting there, I was like, no, it won't. That's bullshit. Like, and this situation is exactly what I'm talking about, because he had his mom on the phone. She's quoted in the article saying, like, he called her, he told her what happened. She thought that he had got pulled out the car, and that's why, like, he wasn't responding to her anymore. She didn't even know he got shot.
Yeah.
Like, so essentially, like, she didn't even know. She just heard her son, like, be killed on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And like all these instances we go through of this shit, and then you see people, which is why I tell people the internet is a fucking joke and it's a fraud, and do not believe anything you see on there, because a lot of that shit is used to push narratives and stuff like that. Every time one of these incidents happened, it was always somebody with an American flag, Avi, or they're like with a Corona or a Budweiser. If they just would have complied, this wouldn't have happened. Or if they would have just followed the rules, this wouldn't happen. And now in these situations, the person complied, like XYZ still happened, and now like still the same responses. So, which lets me know, like I said, this is bullshit. Like, all these responses are just, they're thrown out there because they don't want to say the truth with all this shit, which is simply just, hey, police are trained that minorities are bad. Handle with force, do not handle with care. And if it gets in a situation when you're at fear, you can use lethal force, because fuck them. Like,
and you will get away with it.
And you will get away with it. And that is just clear, plain as day. To me, there is no, and until law enforcement wants to sit there and have a real honest conversation with this, that just needs to be the narrative. Because our narrative gets thrown out there all the time when it comes to straight bullshit. So this needs to be the new narrative when it comes to law enforcement. Hey, if you're a minority, if you get pulled over, if you get stopped, if you get questioned, you might die.